Well, my friends, I finally did it. I'm back to my regularly scheduled programming. I released 3 videos, did 1 live discussion last week, and I read a whole book and started a couple more for good measure. Hey everyone, I'm Nikhil with Shelf-Esteem, and this is the weekly reading roundup for the week ending June 22nd, 2025. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Nikhil with Shelf-Esteem. I'm a composer, now also booktuber. You can find my music in The Wheel of Time, His Dark Materials, and the newly released The Hills of Tanchico, the featured song in The Wheel of Time Season 3, Episode 6. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the weekly reading roundup. So, as I mentioned in the cold open there, had a very prolific week, both in terms of books, book discussions. So let's start off by talking about what I read, as I always do. If you like this kind of video, want to see some more content from a slightly overly enthusiastic book addict like myself, then please hit like and subscribe. Always helps out the channel. And now on to the books. So I mentioned to you, I read a full book from start to finish, cover to cover, and that is Ken Follett's Eye of the Needle. Now, I was particularly interested about this book because this was the one that broke Ken Follett out into the mainstream. I believe it was written in the late 70s or early 80s or something like that. This is the book where this was kind of one of the last spy espionage thrillers that he did before he took a hard left turn and decided to write a historical fiction series that would become the Kingsbridge series with Pillars of the Earth, which really changed and blew him into the stratosphere. But this was kind of the big turning point in his career initially. So I was curious to see, because I've read a couple of his books of the Century trilogy, and I absolutely adored those. And I've heard he's really good at plotting and pacing his books because of his thriller experience. He knows how to keep things moving, keep the pages turning. So I finally decided to read this. It's about 330 something pages or so. So not too big, it's digestible. One thing that I really enjoyed about this book is that it's a World War II thriller, and I find that period of history very fascinating. You see people from, I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm going to keep everything very vague, but you see some specific historical characters from that time period make appearances and interact with some of the main characters. This is about a spy, a German spy named D. Nadel, who... It's about a German spy who is trying to get some critical information over to the Third Reich that might become a turning point in the war, unless the Allies can catch him first. The thing that was interesting about this was, although that's the main plot line, there were a lot of different characters that kind of came into play and interacted with the spy, interacted with the Allies, and one particular couple and their marriage dynamics was very intriguing to read. Actually, that took up more of the book than I expected it to, which was an interesting choice, I think, by Ken Follett. I personally loved it. I can understand if some people felt like it took away from the main plot line of the story, but all these things really converge together, so it does feel very closely tied in. I don't know that I have a gripe about this book. I will say that it was a thoroughly enjoyable read all the way through. I felt like the characters were extremely memorable. I would probably give this like a 4.5 out of 5. The only reason I would take a half star off is it didn't blow my hair back like a Century trilogy would. I feel like that was an even more fully realized historical fiction with some suspense elements, thrillers and things like that, thriller elements that I really enjoyed in that series. Now, to compare something that great with this is just a high bar, but as one of his first that really broke him out into the mainstream, I can see why, because I feel like all the trademark Ken Follett qualities that people love about his works are in this book, that he could take minor characters, make them feel like they are major POVs. You kind of get to know everyone very quickly in this book. So I thought it was great. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend you check it out. It's probably a good entry point into Ken Follett, just due to the sheer size, All of his other books with the historical accounts and things like that are much bigger. Always historical fiction stuff is like 900 pages plus. This is a nice little snack to have. So this is the book I finished. I also started, and I'm only 4% in, so I'm reading it on Kindle, but I'm reading it as a buddy read with a couple more people joining in as well. This is book 4 of the Matthew Corbett series by Robert McCammon, fast becoming one of my favorite authors. I think someone who would rival Stephen King, my favorite author of all time. If you like Stephen King, definitely check out McCammon. And I would say this might not be the first place to start because it is a 10-book series. But I would say that, after you've read Boy's Life, Swan Song, the main usual suspects in his catalog, definitely check this out, not too far behind, because these books get more and more riveting as it goes. A lot of people call the first book, Speaks the Nightbird, one of their favorites. The prologue in this book alone, I feel like trumps even most of the first 3 books in this. I mean, it's just absolutely riveting the way he wrote it. And I think like between book 3 and this 4th book, I feel like Robert McCammon's style has evolved a little bit. I don't know if it's just me. Maybe it's been a couple months since I've read a Robert McCammon book, but I feel like you could see this jump in terms of the poetry in his writing. I was just immediately captivated by it. And again, it's very early to say, but I do really am enjoying it so far, and I'm curious to see how I feel about it. But if it continues on this track, I think I'm in for a really fun ride. So definitely check out Matthew Corbett's series if you haven't. TLDR of it is it's about a private investigator in the early 1700s, late 1600s, as he kind of sees these cultural changes in America. And, back when there's still the colonies, right? The British colonies. And just a very interesting historical aspect of the novels, also pretty dark. And, there's some serial killers in it and everything. And, he's this private investigator who's investigating these different mysteries and things. So really fascinating stuff. But the third and final book I got a chance to dive into. Now, I didn't have very much time with it because I only had a day. This was a brand new release. And it's a brand new release by one of my favorite current fantasy authors writing today, and also a staple of Booktube, Dr. Fantasy himself, Philip Chase. He released While Darkness Gathers. This is the sequel to the Idan trilogy, which I have talked about so much on the channel as one of the true pillars of a modern fantasy trilogy. I think it has enough of the tropes that you come to know and love. It feels nostalgic, but it feels like it takes a hard left turn. It introduces, Buddhist philosophy in a way that I haven't really seen in fantasy. One thing I loved about the Idan trilogy, and I was curious to see how While Darkness Gathers would, carry that torch, is although there are a lot of characters in the original trilogy, it never feels like overblown. Does that make sense? It feels, as soon as characters are introduced, you kind of already remember them, even with names that are like a little bit more, flowery at times and things like that. You still get to know them immediately. And I just thought that was so cool. It's very hard to do that, in fantasy. I feel like even some of my favorite series like Wheel of Time take some time for you to understand, wait, who is that character again? You never feel that with a Philip Chase novel. So I gotta say, I'm 25% done with While Darkness Gathers already. I read it in one day, that fourth of the book. It is shorter than some of the, than the other books in the Idan trilogy. But I am loving it so far. I'm immediately grasping the characters. There's some familiar faces. They are talking about other characters that did not, live to see past the Idan trilogy. There's new characters that are introduced that are equally compelling. I'm already on board with some of them. I'm just keeping this very high level because this book just came out, on Saturday. You're going to be seeing this on Monday. I don't want to spoil anything, but I got to say, it is right in line with the things that I love about the Idan trilogy. I would say, and maybe again, I can't quite say for certain, but it feels to me immediately that the writing style is even more evolved. Like the things that I love about Philip Chase's writing, the beautiful prose balanced with this characterization that's very easy to grasp. I feel like it's even better in this novel so far. I'm just loving this. I could already see that this is going to become one of my favorite reads of June. And I'm so excited to continue. I think my only gripe for this book, I can already tell, is that it is significantly less page count. And I want to live in this world a little bit longer. Like, I also wonder if that will mean that it will have less of an epic scope then at least the way it's set up currently, it feels like it's going to be a smaller story in scope than the original trilogy. I'll be curious to see if that continues to carry, or what Philip's plan is going to be going forward after this sequel. If he's going to do prequel novels, or if he's going to do more sequels. I'm just curious to see how this all unfolds, but I think I'm going to be left wanting more, and maybe that's not such a bad place to be. So let's talk a little bit about what I'm going to read next week. So of course, I'm going to finish While Darkness Gathers. That's going to be a pretty fast read for me, I can already tell. I'm going to finish The Providence Rider, the Robert McCammon book. And of course, I'm leaving all the links in the description, by the way. So make sure to go and check out these books. And if you feel compelled to buy them, support the wonderful authors, you know. And then I also want to read, I'm just kind of looking at my list here. I definitely want to finish. I know I was going to do that last week. I got a little bit sidetracked with Eye of the Needle, which wasn't on the schedule. But I am going to finish Memories of Ice once and for all. And it's not for lack of liking it. You know, it's some books I've actually fallen in love with very hard that I have just kind of gotten distracted. You know, it's as reading addictions sometimes do. But I want to finish Memories of Ice, Book 3 of Malazan Book of the Fallen, in time for our read-along to continue with House of Chains, which is going to begin in July, which I'm very excited to get to because I've heard it's the introduction of Karsa Orlang, which is one of people's favorites characters in Malazan. So excited to see how that all goes. And then, of course, I'm going to start in earnest Fugitive Prince, Book 4 of the Wars of Light and Shadow by Jenny Wirtz. So very excited to dip back into this world. I'm going to take my time with it, spread it out over a couple months. I think that's the best way to digest this story, is to deliberately read slower, which I'm all for. Let's talk about this week on the channel. Like I said, I had a prolific week. I released the Reading Roundup. I also released 2 other videos. One was an r/fantasy tag. I was tagged by Sam Not So Wise, wonderful channel, link down below. And it's basically taking... it's a kind of an idea that was created by Nev's book channel, which he also created an incredible website where you could go on, look at all the r/fantasy picks for like must-read fantasy, and then click the ones that you've read, and then the ones that are it populates the ones that you haven't read that are like the top 10 must reads. So I kind of dive into that, look at the ones that I read, talk about them a little bit, ones that I've started, talk about those, and then talk about the ones that I still have yet to read. So check out that video if you haven't checked it out. It was quite a fun tag to do. And the second one was kind of a cool one I tried to create, which was picking 2 selections, 2 books, or, you know, 1 book or 1 series, you know, something like that, from 5 different genres. So I covered fantasy, sci-fi, historical fiction, horror, and nonfiction. So I thought it would be kind of fun to do, and I tried to make each choice juxtaposition against the others. So if I chose a standalone, I would also choose a series as the second selection. If I chose something that was like supernatural in its scope, I would try to choose something that was more grounded. You know, they were not always the usual suspects, so I think there were some interesting choices, but I try to justify all of them, and I would love to know if we agree or disagree. So if you haven't checked out that video, seems like a lot of people like that one. And it seemed like it was unique of a topic. So I'm glad, you know, every time I love doing the topics that everybody else is doing. That's really fun. But it's also fun to contribute something to the space that not as many people are doing. And hopefully if people want to grab the idea and run with it, I want to hear their choices too. So let me know if you do in the comments, because I would love to check out your videos as well. So let's talk a little bit about, one more thing that happened actually. So we did a Dragonbone chair discussion, which was on Booked and Busy's channel. It was an all-star Booktube cast, really. And then me, somehow I got included in it. But definitely check out that video. It was really nice. We had a 2-hour discussion on Tad Williams' Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn series, and the Dragonbone chair. I think myself and Philip Chase were probably the most high on this book, the first entry in it, than everybody else. I think a lot more people had varying opinions, which is kind of cool. I like contrarian points of view. It also reframed for me the series in a way that I hadn't thought of before. Also makes me excited to see what's going to be in the next installment, Stone of Farewell, which we're all going to read in July. So keep updated on that by checking out that video, and then you can be apprised of the future videos as they come out. But lovely discussion, fantastic group of people, and really cool opinions in that video. So and a few of you joined in, so it was really nice to see you all in the chat. So thanks for being there, those who joined in. we are at 1,247 subscribers now. So been slower growth this month, but of course makes sense. I did have a lighter month at the very beginning of the month because of other work and stuff. So I released less videos. Now I'm back on to like 3 videos a week. And I know it sounds kind of crazy, but hey, I love contributing value to the space, and I've been excited to do that again in full capacity. So I'm back, y'all. Let's talk a little bit about the channel schedule. So Reading Roundup on Monday. On Wednesday, I think I'm going to release my July TBR video. I always like to do this a few days earlier so that people could hop on read-alongs if they want to, or just kind of know what's going on the channel. And just, you can kind of get a sneak preview of what the reading roundups are going to be like, right, in July, week to week. Couple really cool surprise announcements in that video, actually. So stay tuned for Wednesday. And then on Friday, I'm going to do my own version of the mid-year freakout tag. Apparently, so I saw Sam Not So Wise do his, and I'm going to piggyback off his video there. But apparently, it was either started or popularized by Murphy Napier, who is one of my favorite booktubers. I found her around the same time I found Daniel Green in 2019. I just love the way she talks about books in a conversational, casual style. She just seems like a really cool person. But anyway, she, I think, either popularized or started this tag, and I am very excited to talk a little bit about my best and worst books of the last 6 months or so. Do a little check-in, mid-year check-in, and kind of assess and see where things are going to go from here. So keep an eye out for that on Friday. That'll probably be a premiered video, so I can join you all in the chat and we can chat a bit. Let's talk about on the music front. So I am a little bit now finally recovered from the blow that we all faced, the devastating blow of the Emmys campaign debacle. If you want more info on that, you could check out this video up here. But really, it was a tough pill to swallow, especially when things are out of your control, and things happen outside your purview. It hits harder, right? And all this stuff feels like lightning in a bottle. It's like, how will situations be recreated to create like a viral song that you work on for a hit show? That's a hard pill to swallow, but life goes on. So I'm back. I'm here. I am excited for the weeks to come. I did do a live show, you guys. I did a live show debuting 3 songs. One was a string quintet version with choir of The Hills of Tanchico. I'm going to release some video of that on my other channel, on my Nikhil Koprkar channel, which is a music focused channel. So I did the show. I debuted 2 songs from my EP, Face the Music, one called My Year and one with the tongue-in-cheek title called The Meaning of Life. Those had string quintet and choir, and I played piano, played guitar, and sang as well. So it was to a packed room of industry colleagues, and it was wonderful, really great hanging with everybody. It was sponsored by a gin company, so of course we had to sample the gin. It was quite fun. Then I have an upcoming show with the Female Composer Safety League, something I'm actually really passionate about, which is creating safe spaces for female composers to be able to have more opportunities, first of all, in the composing space, and feel safe while doing so. So we are doing a benefit concert called Sound Off, which is going to be the following Saturday. And I'm having some pieces debuted there with, a smaller orchestral ensemble. There's going to be some other very famous composers that are going to be debuting their works, including Sun Lux, who did Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is really cool. So being on the bill with him is going to be quite fun. Also, Amanda Jones, who did the Murderbot series on Apple TV. So really cool to be in such illustrious company, and I'll keep you posted on how that concert goes as well. And then I have a bunch of games work. I've been taking meetings on some game projects. I'm working on my wife's game, working on another one. Seems like this is the time for games, so I'm going to jump in with both feet, pitching for other projects. My docuseries thing is still early. Going to be working on a short film as well this week. So, things are picking up here and there. Just not quite enough, but hey, I will take the victories where I can. So, how was your week, you guys? Did you have a good week? Did you have a great reading week? Anything cool happened? Let's celebrate you. Let me know in the comments. I always love reading them and engaging in dialogue with you on the Discord, in the comments section. It's just fun, That's why we do this, right? We love books, we love the community, and we love contributing to it in our own way. So feel free to contribute as you see fit. I appreciate you being here. I'm Nikhil with Shelf-Esteem. Be good to yourselves, be good to each other. Please like and subscribe. It always helps the channel. I am so grateful that you're here. And I will see you as always on the next video. Count on it on Wednesday. Take care.